Welcome, everyone, to Life in the Fast Lane. I am Andy Lang from WagerTalk.com. We got an action-packed show as we're coming off of a NASCAR and Formula One race, and then we've got a NASCAR and Formula One race coming up. The weekend was looking great. We easily cashed our Formula One play, and then the craziness of Darlington got me. I went 0-2, one car wrecked by itself and took himself out of the race, and then the other literally caught on fire in the middle of the race as he was racing around the track. So we go 0-2 there, which means a 1-2 week. Still very, very happy with the year so far as we're hovering around that 59%. As you guys know, leave your comments and picks below. I love seeing what everyone is thinking for this week, especially with these two races and especially after what we witnessed at Darlington. Want to know what you thought. Can we trust the Hendrick cars? Can we trust the Gibbs cars? Are they going to blow up on us or what? So let's just get right into it. Darlington recap. William Byron wins stage 1. Kyle Busch wins stage 2. And Eric Jones, who loves racing at Darlington and who I've always been a fan of. I think he kind of got a raw deal losing his ride. And then he gets the win at Darlington in the playoffs. And that man earned it. There was nothing lucky about it. He ran up front all race long, took advantage when some of the other cars blew up. But it was a little bit lucky because of Truex and Kyle Busch, but that was going to be a great finish for him regardless. So really happy to see that. All right, so what happened at Darlington? Rain once again gets the better of NASCAR. It's amazing. Rain is like 321 and 1 against NASCAR. So the race starts. Logano gets out, leads a ton of laps. Looks like it's going to be Logano's race to lose. They screw up a pit stop. He falls back. William Byron looks fast. He has some strange engine problems. His car didn't blow up, but he falls back a little bit. He's saying the engine sounds weird. Larson, engine problems. He goes several laps down. Chase Elliott wrecks himself. He's done. And then Harvick has pit problems. He has 2 horrible pit stops, but he races his way through the field. Our best bet on the show is Harvick top 10. And despite the mishaps, he just ends up in the top 10 like he always does. Gibbs' cars looks fantastic. All of them are running in the top 5. And then, bang, stage 3 happens. Kevin Harvick's car literally catches fire in the middle of the race. They're doing pit stops and Harvick's out on the track, and all of a sudden his car's on fire. Truex, it looks like he has the best car. It looks like he's stamping his mark on the playoffs, even though he's not in it. His car blows up with 32 laps left, and Kyle Busch's car blows up right after that. Eric Jones gets the awesome jump off the start and holds off Denny Hamlin and Tyler Reddick to get the win. Your top 5 ends up being Eric Jones, Denny Hamlin, Tyler Reddick, Joey Logano, and Christopher Bell. Let's just take a quick look at the Stenhouse Award because we've got a couple from Formula One, and we'll get to the Formula One race here in a little bit. But the Stenhouse Award, we'll start with, of course, Ferrari. Of course, Ferrari has to make an appearance. They bring Carlos Sainz in for a pit stop. They have 1, 2, 3 tires ready for him. It's a 13-second pit stop Ferrari. Apparently, they forgot that these new cars, they require 4 tires, not 3. So Carlos Sainz, they mess up that pit stop. Later in the race, he passes Ocon as the yellow flag has come out. That's not that big of a deal. But then he goes to the pits and he gets an unsafe release and a 5-second penalty that drops him down to 8th. The Ferrari clown show continues. Up next, Yuki Tsunoda comes in for a pit stop. He comes out, he comes over the radio and says his tires aren't fitted right. He pulls over, stops, then he somehow gets going again. He comes into the pits, they change his tires, they adjust his seatbelt, he goes back out, and then pulls over again. So Yuki Tsunoda bringing the Formula One race to a complete halt for reasons only him and his team know. Moving on to NASCAR, Kevin Harvick comes into the pit. They release him before the left front tire is even on the car. Could have been a disastrous thing. He did not get a penalty, but he had to start from the back. Chase Elliott spins by himself, hits the wall, breaks the back end of the car. His race is done. The Hendricks cars, Kyle Larson has engine problems. William Byron has some engine issues. And then Harvick's car catches on fire while he's racing at full speed. After his car caught fire in the interview, he says the car parts are cheap and they're dangerous. And just a few minutes later, Truex and Kyle Busch's cars blow up. That has got to be the winner. Harvick rips NASCAR and rips the car parts and the manufacturers and you think, well, it's just spilled milk, maybe he's just being a baby. And literally minutes later, two of the top cars in the race blow up. So Harvick gets validated. I've never seen a car catch fire like that. It was on the right side. It was very, very strange, very dangerous. So Kevin Harvick, turns out he was right about the parts being cheap and dangerous. And now we don't know what to expect coming into this race. So before we get to the Formula One race, let's do a quick playoff recap. So your top your top four in NASCAR: Logano, Byron, Hamlin, and Bell. It's crazy that Eric Jones wins the race, so you don't have a playoff car get the win to get to the next stage. But because of all the disasters, Austin Cindric, Austin Dillon, Chase Briscoe, and Kevin Harvick, those are your first four on the chopping block. Harvick being the big surprise. I got to believe in Kevin Harvick. I think he sneaks back in. I think he recovers from this one. So Logano, Byron, Hamlin, and Bell, those are the ones out in the lead. If they just play it safe, they should advance to the next round. Cindric, Dillon, Briscoe, and Harvick, those are the guys that are going to have to push. So this week's race, we're going to Kansas. Basic cookie cutter track. What's interesting about this is you don't see anybody that has completely dominated this track like you normally see at some of the cookie cutters. So your best average finish the last three races at Kansas, first off, is Martin Truex, but his average finish is only 6.4, not even in the top six. Up next, Kevin Harvick and Kurt Busch. They're tied at 6.7. Obviously, we don't have Kurt Busch here. Denny Hamlin is at 7.0, and fifth is Kyle Larson at 7.3. So there's really not a surefire like, oh, this guy dominates this track. So if you're looking at average finishing position, that's not much help there. I crunched some numbers, and I took the best average finish of a combination of tracks. I combined Michigan, Nashville, Chicago, Charlotte, and Kansas for this year. It's 2022. One thing that's interesting, I mean, Kansas, Charlotte, Chicago, Nashville, it's kind of a while ago. A lot has happened since then. So, these are the numbers. Again, nobody dominating. Your first best average finish with those tracks is Kyle Larson at 6.8, not even close to a top five average finish. Kurt Busch there at 9.3, Denny Hamlin at 9.6, and Joey Logano's fourth outside a top 10 average finish at these tracks at 10.2. Martin Truex is at 10.4. So when we're looking at a combination of Kansas and then those tracks I mentioned, the common names that pop up are Martin Truex, not in the playoffs, Denny Hamlin, one of the top guys in the playoffs, and Kyle Larson. So I take that for what it is. I don't take away a whole lot. I think this one is going to surprise a lot of people, and doing the research on the numbers, nothing really, really jumped out at me. The biggest question is going to be what teams have it together and what teams haven't experienced any issues. And I got to say, I think I might be looking at Chastain and Suarez. You heard some from them, but the Gibbs cars, my gosh, how do you trust them after what you saw with Truex and with Kyle Busch and then Hendricks? My gosh, how do you trust any of those cars? Even Chase Elliott before he wrecked did not look great. I expected him to make some adjustments throughout the race, but a lot of questions on those cars. And I got to tell you, I'm not going to be putting my money on Gibbs cars or Hendricks cars. So Tyler Reddick looked good. Maybe he's a guy that we look to support, but I think Chastain and Suarez maybe might be a couple guys. I don't know. A lot of question marks coming into it, but practice is going to be really, really important for this week. I want to take a look at what's going on in the garage and see which cars have good reports coming out of that. So my racing pack will be up for this weekend. It includes Formula One and NASCAR. So take a look at that. I will not put out any NASCAR plays unless I am supremely confident. I mean, I like to think of that every week, but I'm going to proceed with caution this week. So if I have a play for the NASCAR race, it's going to be a real good one. Let's take a trip to the slipstream and recap the Formula One race. Verstappen gets the great start, gets out in the lead. Everyone is on soft tires at the front except for Mercedes. Mercedes starts out on mediums, so they stay out longer, and they're going to go for a one pit stop strategy, which, man, did that look good. We'll get to that in a second. But off the start, Esteban Ocon gets a great start. He goes from 12th to 9th on the start. That was my best bet for the Formula One race, was Ocon to finish top 10. Alonso and Ocon go on to the hard tires on their first pit stop. So you've got Alpine on hard tires after their first pit stop. Mercedes stays out as long as they can on the mediums, and they go on to hards. I thought this was a brilliant strategy. It was the only way for them to keep up with Verstappen. And then Yuki Tsunoda happens, brings out the virtual safety car. It's a gift to Verstappen. Verstappen can pit, and he can keep up with Mercedes. And then it's Lewis in first, Russell in second. So you got a Mercedes 1-2, but Max is in third, right behind him. So you're thinking, okay, maybe Russell can hold off Max. Lewis gets a great start. Who knows what can happen? And then Mercedes pits George Russell. Max blows by Lewis Hamilton on the start. Hamilton is livid, and Max cruises to an easy win as Russell and Leclerc get around Hamilton to take the podium. Hamilton was the only one on medium tires there. I'm not really sure what was going on with Mercedes there. They definitely left Hamilton out to dry, but I do think if Lewis Hamilton thinks he was going to win that race, even if Russell stayed out, he's sorely mistaken. Verstappen was in a league all to himself. Sainz gets the penalty. He finishes eighth, and Alpines, both finish inside the top 10. They're about as steady and predictable as it gets. So we're racing the Italian Grand Prix. This is Monza. Daniel Ricciardo is the defending champ. Safe to say we're not going to have a repeat winner here. That would be something to behold. Pretty basic track, honestly. It was built in the 20s. Not much to it. Max Verstappen is a huge favorite, and for good reason. Mercedes, I think, stumbled onto something trying to get on a different pit strategy than Max, but man, does this track set up great for him. There's nothing too fancy about it. You got some really good long stretches, which Ferrari and Mercedes just can't keep up with the Red Bull. They've got that long straight speed, and I don't see any areas in the track where Ferrari and Mercedes are going to be that much better. I'm hoping to get a bad qualifying run from both of the Alpines. They've been great on race day. We talked about Ocon last week about how he's improved his race, or his from where he qualified. He's improved. I think this is now it's a lot. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but he's just much better on race day. So hopefully we get that. Valtteri Bottas, this guy's a fade. Something is going wrong with that car. No way you can bet on him. He was a great top 10 play for the first part of the year, but I'm hoping to get a good qualifying run out of Bottas and get a great head-to-head matchup because I would love to fade him. And we got to fade Daniel Ricciardo. Poor Daniel Ricciardo. This is just the nightmare year. So if we get a good matchup against Daniel Ricciardo on race day, best believe I will be playing that one. Free bet. I mentioned them before. I'm just going to take the Alpines both to finish inside the top 10. Check your books. I see it around minus 175. And I know that's juicy, but man, Alonso just keeps his car clean and gets the most out of it. Ocon keeps his car clean, gets the most out of it. Ocon was starting in 12th place, and I had him at top 10. And by the halfway through the first lap, he was inside the top 10 and never looked back. So if you're thinking of it this way, okay, let's say we get best case scenario with Red Bulls. They're both in the top, 3. Ferrari somehow manages to not screw themselves over, and Mercedes, both cars finish the race. That's 6 positions you would expect out of the top 10. I can't pick too many guys above Alpine. Maybe Lando Norris, but the Alpines just have their race day strategy down. I trust them. That's what I'm saying. I hope to get a bad qualifying run out of them because they're just great on race day. So the free bet is going to be both Alpine cars to finish inside the top 10. I can't lay this much juice with Max. It's minus like 250 around there to win the race, and for good reason. He's a huge favorite. My only suggestion for betting on Max Verstappen is if you have a book that offers live betting on Formula One, sometimes when they do pit stops, you can get a really good price on Max. The books are sometimes slow to adjust to the pit stops. So I was able to make a live bet on Max when people were realizing Mercedes was going to do one stop. And then we had the cautions that brought the line way back to like minus 400, minus 500. But if you're looking and you're watching the race, keep your live lines open because sometimes the books are a little slow to adjust the pit stop strategies. You can get a better line on Max than when the race first started. So that's going to do it for Life in the Fast Lane, guys. All my picks can be found on WagerTalk.com. That pack will be up, hoping to finish this year strong as we're still around the 59%. So go grab that. Good luck. Let's hope the Alpines both finish inside the top 10. Let's hope for safety in the NASCAR race, that none of these guys get hurt with some of the mishaps of the car parts. Should be a great weekend of racing. I know it's football season, but don't forget about all those bankroll profits you can make on auto racing. I'll see you next week on Life in the Fast Lane. Good luck, and let's have a great weekend.